Hi everyone! For everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Caroline Monroe. I graduated Nichols this May, and something you probably already know, but you're going to miss it more than you ever thought you would. Um, right now I'm at Duke in North Carolina getting my master's in teaching, and I like it, but it keeps me very, very, very busy. I don't really have time for anything, which kind of sucks. But Professor Halpern asked me to send you guys a video about applying to grad school. Um, I know this isn't really great news, but applying to grad school takes a lot of time and a lot of research, which is, I think, my biggest piece of advice is make sure you spend a lot of time researching because there are a lot of schools and a lot of programs out there, and it's really important that you get all the information. Um, I didn't know what I wanted to study a year ago. I didn't know if I wanted to study math or if I wanted to study English or if I wanted to study teaching. I really wasn't sure, and the only way I figured it out was lots and lots of research. So once I narrowed it down to teaching, there are so many different kinds of programs out there, and they're different lengths, and you get different certifications, and you take different classes. So it took a lot of research to do all of that. But once you get past it all and make a list of, 7 or so schools that you think you really want to go to, it's worth it to apply. One resource that is really helpful is U.S. News. If you go to Google and you type in U.S. News graduate school rankings, and if you know what you want to study, then you can say graduate school rankings, business, or whatever you want to study, and it'll put all the schools and they'll rank it for you what has the best program. And it's not always about what has the best program and a reputation of a program, but it's a really great place to start. So I looked at like hundreds of schools from that website, and then you go to the school's website and find out more about what that school offers, what that school values, what that school is looking for in candidates, and you start to figure out if those schools are right for you. That's where I started, and I think it's a really great resource. So if you go to Google and you're really unsure what you want to study, start with U.S. News graduate school rankings. If you know what you want to study but have no idea where or what kind you want to study, that's another good place to start. Another really important thing is interests of the faculty. It really depends on what you're studying. Teaching, pretty straightforward what the teachers are interested in. But a lot of other subjects, it's really important to figure out what the teachers and faculty there are really interested in, because it doesn't matter about a school's ranking if it doesn't have what you want. So you need to make sure you look and see what their interests are, because that'll affect the classes that are offered. That will affect the attitude and atmosphere at the school. You really need to make sure that you have an idea of what you want to get at a grad school before you look through grad schools, because you want to find somewhere that matches what you want. And if you don't know what you want, you have nowhere to start with. I didn't know what I wanted, and I looked and I looked and I looked. I finally figured out what I wanted, and then I had to start all over. And that's okay. It just takes a lot of time. Another thing that's really important is funding. Depends on what you want to study, but a lot of schools don't offer graduate school or master's funding. So that's something really important to keep in mind. You can always apply to a PhD program straight from your undergrad. It's more competitive to get into, but you're more likely to get funding. I only applied to schools where I knew I could get funding. That was something really important to me, but I know a lot of other people who didn't care so much about that. So you need to make sure you know what kind of funding the school has. Another thing about funding that I would suggest, a lot of the places that I applied to, even though they had funding, I have to teach for 2 years after I've gotten my degree to pay back. So in theory, I'm on fellowship, but my fellowship requires me to teach for 2 years after I get my degree, or else it turns into a loan, which is fine, except I don't love teaching as much as I thought I would, and now I'm stuck. I have to teach for 2 years after this, or else I'm in a whole lot of debt. So keep that in mind when you're looking. If you're 150% positive this is what you want to do with your life, okay. But I was sure that I wanted to be a teacher, and I'm 3 months in, and now I'm not so sure, and I'm stuck. So keep that in mind. Another thing that's really important to me is class size. And so I applied to programs that were small. There are 15 of us in my program. We all had the same classes over the summer. It's a really small program, but I really like that. You guys all know how small Nichols is and how wonderful it is to have small classes, so that was really important to me. But I know some other people who are in graduate programs at other bigger schools that have 60 plus people in their classes and almost 100 people in their program, and that's absolutely fine, but you have to decide what's right for you, and it was a big factor in where I applied. Another thing that is make it or break it is the application process and the requirements. So a lot of schools, I know somebody who is applying for economics, and a lot of schools required him to have very detailed math classes that he wasn't aware that he needed to take. So it is never too early to start looking at that. It's never too late, but make sure you look. If they're looking for a certain class, you better make sure you take it in the spring if it's somewhere you really want to go. So make sure you check out all the requirements and the application process, because it can be very time consuming, so make sure you look and budget your time. Another thing that if you ask anybody for advice about grad school, they will say, and I will agree, you have to apply to a really wide range of schools. If you start on US News and find a bunch of rankings, don't apply for all the top ranking schools, but also don't apply for all the bottom ranking schools. Have faith in yourself. Apply to some reach schools that you don't think you can get into, because there's a chance you can get in. There's a good chance you can get in, even if you don't think there is a shred of hope. But also make sure you apply to schools. There is no such thing as a safety school for grad school, because it's all about who's applying that year, what they're looking for in candidates, if your background and your personality and your attitude is going to match well with the program. There's no guarantee. But make sure you apply to some schools that are really tough to get into and some schools that don't seem as tough. Because if you really want to go to grad school, you need to make sure you give yourself options. That was something that I was really pleased with. I applied to a lot of programs, but it was because it was such a wide range. That was really important. I think that's something anybody would tell you, but I definitely agree. Other things. Be sure you want to go. Grad school is hard and time consuming, and every day I think about how much easier it would be if I just quit and worked in a cubicle somewhere. So make sure you want to go, and if you want to go, it'll be worth it. Make sure you want to go. Think about where in the United States or in the world you want to be. I knew that I love New England, I love Massachusetts, but I knew that I wanted to move away and I wanted to be by myself, so I applied to schools all over, and that was okay. Another thing you have to watch out for, I said applications. Make sure you look. A lot of schools require you to give an interview. So if you're applying from far away, Skype is a really, really good tool, but it's something that you need to prepare for. Another thing is schools. If you look now, you'll know some schools require you to take additional tests. I had to take 2 specialized praxis tests for one of my applications, and I didn't find out until very last minute, and I had to pay a late fee to take my tests in 3 days, and I was freaking out because I totally screwed myself. So don't do that. Start now. Look where you want to go and find out what you need to apply, because you may need a lot, which might mean tests, which might mean different classes, which might mean interviews. Just make sure that you know what you need, because it's overwhelming. But if you start early enough and don't do what I did, then you're going to be better off for it. Good luck with everything. I hope you guys have a wonderful senior year. Enjoy every single second of it, because it flies by, and then you graduate, and if you go off to grad school, life doesn't get any easier, and if you go off to the real world, life doesn't get any easier. So I hope you guys have a great senior year, and if you need anything that I can help you with, or you have any other questions about grad school that no one there can help you, or you want to talk to me, talk to Professor Halprin and he can get you my email. I'd be happy to chat with you. Okay, bye.